Hey guys, how's it going? On today's episode, we're going to go ahead and install some aftermarket speakers, a sub, and an amp into my BMW E30. We have here is all MBQuart speakers, not sponsored. And we have E30Dreamin mini subs for the rear quarter panels. These are for the coupes only. He does make vert boxes for the trunk as well as sedan boxes. Start with the front here. We have four 5.25 speakers that will go in the front kick panels, as well as the OEM premium sound boxes right there. They come in 2-packs, which I will link down below. I'll link everything down below. So you get 2 speakers, 2 phasers, and 2 tweeters. And then we have a 900 watt amp. Like I said before, the E30Dreamin mini subs. These things are awesome. They fit in the coupe rear quarter panels behind the panels. All nice. Got your ins and outs and the port on the side here. And then I didn't want to cut up the OEM front tweeters, so we have some Grudgistic aftermarket ones right there. We're going to have to open up the holes just a little bit to get the tweeters to fit. Let's start with the tweeters. I got this one already put in. It is a little small for these tweeters, so what I did is I just took a Dremel and slowly went around and opened it up until it just barely fit. There's a sticker on the side of the tweeter. Go ahead and remove that so there's no extra space. Once you have it pressed in, obviously you're going to want to, you can open it enough to where you can kind of move it in there, or you could do it so it's super tight. I did it so it was super tight, just so there's really no gap. You know, you don't want any extra gap showing here. So you can go ahead, put it on a flat surface, and then make sure that the logo is nice and straight, which mine's pretty straight, but I'll probably go back and fix it one more time. And then what we'll do is this, you can add some hot glue just around the edges right here, and then it is stuck in place. The only thing that the Grudgistic caps do not have is this retaining clip right here. So I might very carefully take this off and then add that to just right there on that, so that they're more like OEM, or just take the clip out and simply just glue it to it, just so it's there and positioned, so that when you clip it in, there's a few more added attachments. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill that out. But for the premium sound for the rear, same concept. So I got everything bolted in here. So all you have to do is take out these 2 screws, and then the OEM tweeter comes out. The casing for the new tweeter is a little big, so I just dremeled the top and the bottom and sat it in there nice, and the top just floats right over. Yes, you could take the grill off if you figured out how to do it. I didn't care too much to figure it out, since you can tell it sorry, you can't even see that the sides are glued in. So I just figured Dremel the top, Dremel the bottom. It sits in there nicely. Now for the 5.25 speaker, when you mount it normal on top, it does stick out quite a bit past the top, so you wouldn't really be able to use the cover piece. You'd be pressing down on the speaker itself. So I decided to reverse mount it. There's still plenty of room when you go put it in there. I'll add the other 2 hardware. I just got to get some new, so that it has, the speaker has plenty of room to move within the housing, and then the top cover will just go on nicely. But you don't need to trim. This just slides in. Make sure you remove the sticker, but it just slides in. And then this one just bolts up like it should. Just throw the screws in from the underside. So I'm going to go ahead and time lapse cutting this open and putting the other one in, and do the same thing, put a time lapse and stick that one in. So once you got those done, we can go and install the front speakers, which are super easy. Just slap them in 4 screws, and then we'll go ahead and install the mini subs into the rear quarter panels. Got them all finished up here. Tweeter's looking great. All I need to do is glue the backs, but I want to make sure I place them in the car and set them so that they're perfectly level before I glue them. And then we also finish up the rear. Got that one all finished up. Just need to add 4 bolts, 2 on that one, 2 on that one to the back, and we are all set. If you want to be more precise with your cutting here, you could very gently put these in a vise so that they're perfectly level, and then go ahead and take a Dremel to them. But they're gonna get covered, so I'm not too worried about them. They look nice and sleek like OEM, you won't even tell. These look good too. I would have probably preferred not to have the MBQuart premium on here, just because it's a little flashy, but it still will look great, and it's that just little subtle hint of upgraded speakers. I started trying to cut out the OEM one. So the OEM mesh mounts right here. So you would need to do the same thing. You'd have to oval it out even bigger than the OEM mesh, so there would be really no way of getting them to sit perfectly in this one with the mesh covering, unless you took out the housings out of the casings here and then just glued them in the back like these are, without messing up the exterior. So I'm happy with these. The Garage ones are great. I am gonna go ahead and transfer this clip over in the back. You don't have to do it. It should mount perfectly fine with the 3 tabs in the back here, as long as you have the 3 tabs on your door. All right, now that the speakers are done, let's go ahead and move on to mounting the amp. I bought some extra stuff for the amp, so I got new terminals for the battery, which allow you to have multiple gauge wire to go through them. So I'll use the biggest one for or at least for the power. I'll use the biggest one for the factory wire going to the front, and I'll use the other one for the 4 gauge. I got some 14 gauge speaker wire. I have a 4 gauge amp kit from CT Sound. They just had a kit, so I bought it. I've also bought some a ferrule crimping tool and some ferrule connectors, so that when you slide them in to, there they are. When you slide them in, they just pinch and it's nice and easy. So I've been messing around with where I want to mount it. You can see the sub right there. Let me get a light. Originally, I wanted to mount it up here. You cannot mount amps upside down, so I would have to mount it exactly how it is now and up, and make some L brackets and everything, because you can't just run a long screw through here, because then it would be in the way of the wire. So what I think I'm going to do is mount it, as much as I really didn't want to, but we're going to mount it to the back here, and then I'll probably make a board that kind of covers around it. So I guess I will be showing off the amp, and it'll have a nice, I'll be able to hide all the wire and whatnot. I also got a capacitor. It's a 5 Farad capacitor. Realistically, I should wait to see how the car handles the audio before I go for, if I actually need that or not. But I'd rather just have it so it's already done and it's already in the system. I don't have to worry about it. What I'm going to do is, this is going to go about right there. I'm going to trim the battery tray just a little bit right here. So I won't use, because there's 2 mounts for this. I'll probably just do 1 mount at the top, and then the bottom kind of cut a hole I make here will be the lower mount, just because I don't want to be drilling into the fender well. That's going to go there. The battery, a nice full-size battery like that, still fits right here. So I'll go positive to a fuse that I'll probably mount right here. And then I'll go to the positive on this, because I'll have it clocked. And then positive will run down and up to the amp. I'll have a ground somewhere up at the top here. And then I'll have this going to somewhere also over here as another ground. From there, we'll run the speaker wire up, and I'm going to try to fit the crossover. I think I'll be able to fit the crossover right here, mount it right here, and then I'll have the wires going to the speaker and speaker, and then they'll just come, there's a pocket right here, so I'll probably just come down and straight into the amp. And then the other wires I'll run out and probably through that hole. I'm gonna go ahead and get this mounted there and see how I like it. I did test, a strut bar will still barely fit there, so that is a must. Got the amp mounted, leveled the car, then leveled the amp the best I could, so that's in there. Went ahead and cut the battery tray to get the capacitor in. It is, once that's bolted at the top here, I mean, I'll put like a little bit of foam at the bottom, and once the battery tray is actually like bolted in place, that's not going anywhere. So there you go. You could see some space, not a lot, but a little bit in between that. The diagrams for this capacitor do show that it's suggested that it goes from the battery, fuse, distribution block, and then one goes to the capacitor, and then one goes to the amp. But I should be fine going from battery to fuse to capacitor, and then capacitor straight to the amp. If I have to add a distribution block in there, I will, but hopefully I don't need to do that. So that's all good. I'm gonna go ahead and drill a hole for this so that we can mount it, and we should be done with placement. All right, let's go ahead and get the subs installed in the pocket here. As you can see on the sub right here, we have a bolt hole here, a bolt hole here, and then included are some L brackets to hold up the side here, which will go in that hole right here. You'll have a hole somewhere here and a hole somewhere up here. Excuse the cage, or the half cage is in the way a little bit. Go ahead and get these off so we can mark them, and then we'll drill the holes. The hardest one is going to be for the side here, so you want to make sure that you have your seat belts out, so that when you go ahead and put them this in like that, you can mark the two holes, let's say with like a paint pen, so you know where to drill into the side of the sub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it all the way back so it's flat on the bottom and as far to the inside as you can go. And then we'll go ahead and mark for a hole here and a hole at the bottom here. This one's going to be more difficult to estimate. So what I'll do is this one first, and then we'll kind of figure out where exactly the hole is down here. And we should be good to go. So grab yourself a punch. Well, don't touch sharp metal because you cut yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the hole here. There we go, that's one installed. Now we have to get this corner one. So I made a little template so that I can set exactly where I need to drill. Those are nice and tight. And now we can go ahead and install the L bracket. So go ahead and get your L bracket, which is included. Take off the hardware on the back, and you will go ahead and place it through the top here, and then you can go ahead and put your L bracket in from behind or below. Once it's at a 90 degrees, what I did is take an Allen key and a paint marker. And what you'll do is you'll go up in the hole, you put the paint on the tip, and mark the centers of the hole. You'll need to take this back out, drill two small holes for the included screws to go with, which are these right here. And you'll put two into the side of the woofer, and then leaving the L bracket now installed to the woofer, you'll then put it back in and tighten down the last bolt, and you will be all done installing the subwoofer. You can see the two holes there. Let's go ahead and grab a small drill bit, and then go ahead and grab your screws in your L bracket. That's installed. Go ahead and pop it back in and add your final 3 screws, and you'll be done with installing the sub. We got them both installed and bolted down. This isn't my final install, so these will be coming out again. The OEM sound deadening behind the speakers, I'm gonna take out and replace with new sound deadening. You also wanna make sure when you drill all the holes that you put some paint on like a paintbrush and then paint the back and the front so nothing rusts. Once they're all bolted down, we can go ahead and start getting them wired in. I'm gonna go ahead and wire them so that the wire goes from here and goes through the back of their wheel well on both sides. There is the amp mounted. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it out, and then I will run it through that little hole right there and through that hole on this side, and that will feed both. So I just finished up the rear premium speakers. So we have tweeter, woofer, or mid, and then you have your crossover, and that runs to the amp. So you have, so right now we have channel 5 is running both of the subwoofers. So you have speaker cable going to each, and then we have channel 4, which is running to this crossover, which then splits to the speaker and the tweeter, and then channel 3, which runs to this crossover. So you can see we have this is the in, so you have power ground going in at the top here. You have these two, which are power out going to the woofer. And then on this side, we have power and ground going to the tweeter. I just have these crimp connections right now. I will change these as these aren't the best. And then for this setup, you actually have 3 options. You have 0 dB, minus 3 dB, and minus 6 dB, which once you listen to them, you could choose which one of the 3 you want. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but John from E30Dreamin, the one that built the subs, just said to start with 3 and go from there. And I will take this setup to get professionally tuned. Now that these are done, I'm gonna go ahead and start running the wire up to the front for the front speakers, the front tweeters, which I'm gonna run up this way and down across there. I'm gonna run them with the RCA cables. I know some people say, no, you're not supposed to do that, and other people say it's fine. The chassis harness will be on that side, and I will have a power wire running all the way on this side, and you definitely don't wanna put speaker wire and the RCA cables next to a power wire. So it's better that I just run them on this side. Finished all of the speaker wire. I ran it all to the front here. I ended up using all 100 foot of that speaker wire. So I just have little small connections on the tweeters. But I did leave a ton of extra wire everywhere just so when I actually go to bolt these in final, when I have the interior and everything, there's extra length. And if I want to change something, it's super easy. And plus the roll was super cheap. So I can always just buy another 100 foot and just have it. We have all the wires going to the front there. I made a little box just to house the mid-ranges temporarily. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start wiring the amp. So excuse the mess here. We have our CT Sounds kit. There's our fuse. And then all of the RCA cables, ground, speaker wires. So I'm gonna go ahead and start hooking this up. I got all the cables ready to go. I am going to charge the capacitor right now. So I figured I'd start filming just in case something happens. We're gonna put the positive on the battery, and then we will take the alligator clips and use it to touch. I didn't explain this part very well. So what I'm doing is I am taking power, I'm then running it to a small lead, which is then going to attach to a resistor that is included with the capacitor that allows you to slowly charge it. You will also need that resistor to discharge it if you were to unplug it, so there isn't any leftover electricity in the system and so you don't shock yourself. The lamp will dim and the capacitor is charged. Oh, it dimmed. So now we're gonna go ahead and remove that and remove this. We're gonna go ahead and attach. So now we should have signal everywhere. All right, so that's the amp's getting power. All right, the amp lit up, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's good. Now let's get power to the head unit and we should be good to go. Head unit's on. All right, so that's going. So I'm hoping when I take this wire and turn it on, oh, all right, that's playing music. Those are playing music. Woo! I'm gonna call that a major success. All right, just before I close up the video, subs do work. I played a different song with a little bit more bass. Not sure if it's copyright or not, so I don't want to risk it. So John, E30Dreamin, subs sound great, and thank you for the recommendations on the speakers. Super clear. They do need to be, the amp does need to be tuned. But that won't happen until the car is all back together. I'd like to play more music, but I don't want to risk hurting something just in case this isn't as perfect as I think it is, especially with just the head unit attached to a battery. But I will have another video installing another head unit, like an actual install of a head unit, and we will go over the final setup so everything will look nice and pretty. And we'll do a full-on listening with the subs going when I actually have a motor in, so I have something that charges the battery, so you can get an actual representation of what you're getting. So if you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and answer them. I'll put a link to E30Dreamin's John's Instagram. Will also be down below. Actually, I'll put it right here. You guys can hit him up if you guys want to order a set of subs. Again, the subs that I have in my car are for coupes only. He does make a vert box for the trunk, and he can obviously take care of you if you have a sedan as well. That is going to be the end of today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you don't follow me on Instagram, Mass Driver right here. If you guys need any BMW parts, hit up my parts page at Rage It Parts. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.